What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. And let's be honest, Cyberpunk 2077 is getting better. And as someone who was fortunate enough to have purchased the PC version, my experience has been pretty decent overall. I find that my only complaint is that it feels kind of easy, but not playing on the hardest setting, so I might want to start over and play on the hardest setting. I don't know. Maybe all the settings. Maybe the hardest setting is just like unendingly brutal. I'm not sure, but that's really my only complaint so far. There's been a few weird little glitches here and there, but especially when I tried changing the graphics settings, for some reason it wouldn't let me turn on ray tracing, even though I have it. And then whenever I would try to change something, it would crash, but that seems to have gone away now. And the article's kind of mood has changed. You see Dave Thier here writing, "Let's be honest, Cyberpunk 2077 is fine," saying, "I haven't finished it yet. I'm most of the way through it. However, which these days is just about the best review I can give a game. I stuck with it. It's a curious thing to try and just sit down and play this thing in a crucible of hype boiled over into white-hot rage that the conversation surrounding the game in the past few weeks. It is right now emblematic of the sorts of problems with the industry and a carrion tale of poor management, overreaching ambition, and the lies used to keep the hype train running. It's, however, after all that a game. Now, 25 hours into it, I feel like I've gotten a handle on it, and my impression is that it's, I don't know, fine." That's basically how it's been playing this thing. An experience not all that different from playing others completely made open world AAA titles, but the hype, anticipation, controversy, and rage that followed the game's wake comes to serve as a lesson in a way of the extraordinary technical labor, pain of inspiration that's gone on to making your standard enjoyable AAA game. And, that's where I'm at with it right now. In a lot of ways, people that kind of avoided all the hype and then all the hullabaloo after the hype, they're the real winners. They're probably enjoying this game on a different level, especially if they're on PC or current gen consoles. Ultimately, there are still problems, though. Players are stumbling upon content that was, in fact, cut. For 2020, there was quite a bit of anticipation and hope for the video game industry. This was a year that we get the PS5 and the Xbox, well, some people. While the next generation video game consoles are out, CD Projekt Red was seeking to release Cyberpunk 2077, a video game title, into the marketplace before 2021 hit. And after years of hype, fans were able to get a copy of the futuristic RPG on December 10th. However, obviously, it needed other issues. There are some buildings that are not finished within the development, which has us wondering just what all the transit locations would have been intended for. While it's likely means to fast travel to certain areas of the map, perhaps some missions involved a transit system. Likewise, we know that the development had intended to bring in more content after launch, so this could be a functioning feature of the game at a later date. Although that's purely speculation. You see here, it looks like they plan to have a fully functioning rail train system, but couldn't finish it in time. Now, this on top of, there's several major issues that still need help. I think the devs are doing as good as you could possibly expect in terms of pushing out updates to help smooth out production or the experience of playing it, to reduce crashes and things like that. It's going to look how it's going to look on the PS4 and Xbox, which I think, you wouldn't blame someone for feeling disappointed based on all the hype that was promoted was using high-end PC graphics, and it's totally would have been natural to kind of expect it to look that good on those consoles. Whether you would agree that's right or wrong, you could understand how people are getting that way. The missing and cut content is an issue. Obviously, the wanted system and the AI desperately needs an upgrade. At least even in my opinion, in the hours that I have into it. But ultimately, they're doing the best they can. Now, I have been critical of this game, but I've also tried to go out of my way and be kind to the developers of the game. I know that it wasn't their decision to, release the game exactly when they did. They worked hard on it. They had a very difficult task of releasing a game on 5, 6, 7 consoles or whatever, PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox Pro, PS5, Xbox Series X, Stadia. I mean, it's nuts. Eric Kane here from Forbes. Surprisingly, Cyberpunk devs do not like being compared to Mr. Hinkly Clankety, the bad guy from WW2. Paste Magazine putting Cyberpunk 2077's multiple failures sum up everything wrong with the video game industry. It's the game of the year in the same way that the bad guy from WW2 was Time's Man of the Year. Obviously a clickbait article, but they did back it up with literal comparisons. And a parenthetical after the audacious statement, we get this, and no, we are nowhere comparing a bad game to history's greatest monster, but if you're looking for an example of when an award really isn't an award, Time kind of set the standard back in 38. Many on Twitter were quick to point the same thing out. No, the article isn't comparing them, it's merely reminding us that Time Person of the Year isn't the same as it once was, blah, blah, blah. In that sense, it's a fair comparison. Cyberpunk 2077 has dominated the video game news cycle, although mostly after its release. Games like The Last of Us Part 2 were certainly discussed plenty earlier in the year. But realistically, this is still a comparison to him. It's still Godwin's Law. Even though the article isn't saying CDPR is literally the bad guy from WW2, it's asserting that the company's actions surrounding the game are bad like him. And he was also bad. It's still clickbait. And while the headline is now, clearly Paste even realized the clickbait went too far. This type of critique is ultimately just unhelpful at best. Understandably, the game devs working at CDPR aren't super thrilled about this. In fact, quite a few hackles are up after the article started making the rounds. BioWare's Mike Gramble tweeted, "Imagine being one of the developers who worked really hard on the game and is still working on the hot fixes into the holiday. Seeing a headline like this, shame on you." Shinobi602 responded with a GIF, of course. Popular YouTuber SkillUp brings a little snark into the conversation. They really thought they did something here. They really thought, yes, this is the right analogy. Send tweet. Industry analyst Daniel Ahmad makes jokes that you'll only get if you follow the drama surrounding The Last of Us 2. Okay, everyone needs to calm down. And it's in a medium where everything is John Wick. Cyberpunk 2077 is literally the bad guy from WW2. And then there are actual developers, many of whom are Polish, which does matter when discussing WW2. For obvious reasons, the article was not a hit among those. Here's RPG lead designer on Cyberpunk, Andres Zawadisky. Sorry. Making a comparison like this is beyond disrespectful and shows an absolute lack of empathy. Senior Quest designer Philip Weber was less delicate. I'll say it as delicately as I can, but seriously, F off. The reaction to Paste Magazine article has been nearly unanimous, uniting fanboys, critics, and game devs and game journalists, including some of the industry's harshest detractors. Yeah, I mean, I get it. You need clicks, especially if you're Paste Magazine. But you can obviously see a lot of the replies. Stop falling for it. These guys know what they're doing. The first screenshot is the first time they posted the article, and they had extremely minor interaction, so they decided to rage bait. And that's exactly it. You see the original article. It's multiple pharaohs, sum up everything, and then they post the Himmler. Look at this, 9 quote tweets, 5 retweets, 14 likes. This article gets 742 likes. But ultimately, still a garbage take that you see Dolan Dark in there, Count Dankula in there, Corey Barlog saying this is everything that's wrong with the game industry. Here, I think they're doing this on purpose to get outrage tweets. To be clear, this I'm referring to is the journalistic idea that Cyberpunk is equal to effing the bad guy from WW2. This article is bad for everyone on so many levels. I wish we were better than this. Speaking of that, keep careful. There is some new malware going around. wrapped up as Cyberpunk 2077 for Android. No sooner was Cyberpunk 2077 released for Windows and consoles as it came with a beta version. We came across a beta version for Android online. It was completely free to download from a site bearing the name Cyberpunk 2077 Mobile. The game's actual developer has yet to announce a mobile version of the game, so we decided to investigate. The website for alleged mobile version looks nothing like Cyberpunk's official site. It's more like a Google Play. In fact, the creators claim the beta version was released on the same day as the official release. It has been downloaded over 1,000 times. Some users have even left feedback saying that it wasn't bad for a beta version. Although the website lists the app size as 3.4 gigabytes, the file is actually less than 3 megabytes. Did the developers also create some kind of futuristic compression on the side? Not likely. Moving along on its initial run, the fake beta requests access to the device. In theory, an app might need this type of thing. If the user grants permission, however, they will see a ransom demand. Not the game they wanted. Allow it. Now it says, hey, seems like you got hit by coderware. Warning, take a screenshot of this place. Coderware uses basic blah, 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 blah. Give me money. You have 24 hours. If you do not pay within 10 hours, your files will be permanently deleted. And it would be out of reach again. If you don't know how, get Bitcoin. You can buy here. You can quickly. So it ends up with a Bitcoin scam. We checked to see what really happens. On the affected files, the files are indeed encrypted and assigned the extension .codercrypt. In addition, the malware places a README text containing the same ransom message in every single folder. However, the files are recoverable. That's just because the malware uses RC4 symmetric encryption. The symmetric is part of the same key. I won't go into all that, but there's also all sorts of different things. Should you pay up? At the time of writing, more than 8,000 Bitcoin had been transferred to the cyber criminal's wallet. $8,000 in Bitcoin. It's working. Meanwhile, the file recovery is no way guaranteed. The ransomware creators might simply disappear with the money, or finding victims willing to pay more, demand more. Therefore, we strongly advise against paying the ransom. Well, of course. So not only are people getting it, but people are paying it. And that brings us to the class action suit now actually filed over Cyberpunk's 2077. After the abysmal launch of many controversies, according to Rosen Law Firm, who's leading the fight, the class action lawsuit was filed against CD Projekt Red due to many issues that have been come to light over the video game industry. Quote, the lawsuit asserts that CDPR failed to disclose that Cyberpunk 2077 was virtually unplayable on Xbox One and PS4, which would then result in forced refunds from Sony, Xbox, and CDPR, with the former taking the game completely off the PlayStation Store. It also asserts that CD Projekt Red made false and misleading statements about businesses' operation prospects and that investors of the company suffered damages when the true details entered the market. Now, anytime you have this, it's basically like ambulance chasers. This is just one of 4 different law firms planning to sue CD Projekt Red. The argument being made that the company misled investors in a deceptive way about the quality of the game on last-gen consoles, which led to recent negative impact at the expense of the investing public. While Cyberpunk 2077 was generally in decent shape on PC when it was released, the game's PS4 and Xbox versions were slammed by critics. Right now, we don't know much more about the lawsuit, but we're going to want to keep an eye on this if it actually materializes. I think if you can, I think they can point to the fact that they've offered refunds, and they can point to the fact that people got refunds as a mea culpa here. I'm not sure that they're going to win anything in this lawsuit. This feels like sleazy law firms sniffing around for a payday, but we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. I hope that you stay tuned into the channel, and we'll talk to you again real soon.